Hello and welcome to our first session on learning to pray the prayer of Examen. There are all kinds of prayers and ways to pray, but there is one prayer that asks an important question that I think is really deep in all of our hearts, and that is, where is God in my life right now? We have prayers where we ask for help. We pray for God to do something in our lives or for other people's lives. We say certain written prayers sometimes. We have some prayers we've memorized. And we have enough prayers where we come to the end of the words because we're not exactly sure what to pray. All prayer is good, and God hears all of our prayers. But there is a kind of prayer that seeks to know where God is present right now in our lives. When we see God in the details of everyday life, we discover that God is closer than we thought. And we also begin to see where God is leading and calling us. And we will find that as we do, that we're beginning to know God and God's gift of walking with us right now, here in the everyday stuff of life. This isn't a new prayer. It was developed more than 500 years ago by St. Ignatius Loyola. So then why would a prayer that was written about the 16th century be helpful for us today? Well, I got some reasons why I think it's really specifically helpful for people today. First, it doesn't take long, and it can be done anytime and anywhere. Second, it allows us to find a quiet place within ourselves with our busy lives. Third, it doesn't look for God in some specifically religious setting, but right in the everyday stuff, the stuff we're already doing, and in the emotions we feel. Which leads, of course, to the greatest benefit. It helps us find God who isn't far away, but already present with us. So this prayer is a way to find and to hold God's greatest gift, the fact that He is with us every day in our lives. In each session, I'll start out by telling you a little more about the prayer, but the important part and the best part is simply learning the steps, practicing the prayer, and learning to pray it on your own. I want to say from the top, I am deeply indebted to the work of Jim Manny for his work on the Examen. I did his video series, the 6 prayers of what's now called the lunchtime Examen. I did those prayers over and over and over. I still use that video as a guide. And I also read his book that was about the prayer of Examen. But the prayer of Examen really isn't so much a prayer that Jim Manny talked about or that I'm talking about, or even that Ignatius Loyola came up with. It's really a gift from God. The prayer has 5 steps. It begins with being still and asking God for the grace to see our lives from His perspective. Next, we pause to give thanks to God and to be grateful. Gratefulness might be at the center of all that Loyola was about, and it is certainly the center of this prayer. Third, we take the time to review the past 24 hours, asking to see where God was most present. In the 4th step, we look to see what went wrong in our day and what we might have done or said or thought in order to confess our shortcomings and receive forgiveness from the Lord. And in the last step, we look forward to the next day to see where we will need God's help and to ask for it. When you begin to pray the Examen, the steps might seem unfamiliar. It does take a little time to practice and to find the rhythm. But in these video sessions, I will begin with a brief review, a little more insight, and then I'll lead you through each of the steps. Here is what works for most people. Start with simply setting aside 15 minutes. If you say to yourself, I will take 15 minutes of my day for this prayer, you will find that you're giving yourself permission to not do other things, to not look at your phone, check your messages, answer emails, the million other things that we do every day. And in this way, it's what we call sanctifying our time, setting aside time for God. Next, find a space. You can pray in your car. You can pray it at your office space. Just be intentional to remove the distractions that will take you away from doing the prayer. Sometimes using headphones can be helpful if you don't want other people to hear what's going on with you in your prayer. So separate a little space, then sit up straight, be relaxed, but stay alert, breathe, and enjoy your time with God. One of the things that I do is while I'm going through the steps, I keep my finger on the pause button so that if I need to take a little extra time, I don't have to reset myself. I can just hit pause, take the more time, and then hit play and keep going. All right, that's all the instructions for today. Are you ready to start? Let's begin first by sitting up straight. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Close your eyes. Allow yourself to go to that place where we find God at the center of our lives and our hearts. Begin by asking God for the grace to see your life the way God sees it. God has known you since before you were born. God created you to be the unique person you are. God showed his love for you when you were at your worst. Christ died for us. Say to the Lord, and go ahead and pray this now. I am asking you, O God, to let me see my life as you see it. Help me by your grace to be present to you right now. So say that prayer. Take a moment to rest in God's presence. Next, begin by giving thanks to God for all that God has given you. Jim Manny points out that Ignatius saw God's blessings as coming to us continually, like the water in a fountain or like the rays of the sun. Every good thing we have comes from God. Your health, your gifts, your family, your abilities, just having a warm home. Each meal we have is a gift. So take a moment to be in gratitude to God. Pray, Lord, I thank you for all that I have, and all that I have has come from you. You have not withheld anything good that I need. Now consider all that God has given, and take a few moments simply to be warmed in God's grace and to be thankful. Now we come to the heart of the prayer. Staying in that spirit of thanks, look back over the last 24 hours of your life. Some people say that it's easiest to do by thinking about your last day like it was a movie. Allow it to play out before your mind. I often find it hard to remember all the things that happened the last 24 hours, And so I sometimes find it's easier, instead of starting 24 hours ago, to start now and to work backwards. But begin to notice where you have been, who you have been with, what you've been doing, the conversations you had, thoughts you had. Let it all play out. Now notice where God was particularly present, or perhaps most glaringly absent. Ask with this prayer: Lord, please show me what you want me to see in the day just past. Help me to be aware. Take some time to think about the last 24 hours of your day. As you review your day, where did you sense strong feelings? They could have been good or bad, but where did you have strong emotions in your day? St. Ignatius believed that our emotions were often strong indicators of God's presence in our lives. What was going on when you felt this way? And then ask the Lord, saying, Lord, what does this mean? What should I notice? Now take a moment to listen to what God's Spirit is saying or showing you. Now take a few moments to consider what didn't go well in the last 24 hours. Maybe you were angry and you said something to someone that you regret. Maybe you did something that you feel bad about. Maybe you gave in to an old temptation. If you need to make amends to someone, make a note of it. And when you're ready, simply ask God for forgiveness. Ask for it and receive it. So take a few moments to consider what went wrong and to find forgiveness. Now we have come to the last step of the examen. Looking forward to the next 24 hours, what do you have coming up where you will need God's help? Is it a phone call you're not looking forward to? Is there an appointment? Do you have a hard meeting ahead? Is God asking you to do something? Do you need help dealing with a temptation? Think about the next 24 hours and pray, Lord, give me your grace and strength for what I can see and also for that which I cannot see. Ask. Now, to end the examen, say the Lord's Prayer. I find the effects of contemplative prayer, like the examen, are often not felt at the time that I'm praying it. I find it usually happens sometimes afterwards, maybe even over a longer period of time. But be reminded that if you have just prayed this examen, you have done a good thing, and I'm sure that our Father was overjoyed to have been with you and that you took the time to listen. You can use this video as a guide throughout the week. There will be new ones with a little bit of different information, but the main thing is just to get back to the prayer. So now take a deep breath and smile. You have been in the presence of God who loves you.